What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and it's been a busy couple of weeks. Been at BlackBerry World, been at Google I/O, events in New York City, been doing unboxings in airports. It's been a wild, wild week, but now I'm finally back, and because my office is still being finished, I'm hanging out in the kitchen doing videos. You want to know what I'm doing? I'm making sandwiches for all of you because it's a party. Come on over, hang out. Actually, I don't think all of you can hang in here. It's not that big of a space, but if it was, I would definitely invite you. I'm here with the Samsung Infuse 4G. Awesome phone that has the camera turned on at the moment, but awesome phone. Came out, was announced a couple weeks ago, or actually last week in New York City. We did the unboxing in New York City, and it's a pretty well-spec device. 1.2 gigahertz processor, 4.5-inch display, 8-megapixel camera on the back, so it's got a big honking display. Not just a big display, but a big honking display. Front-facing camera and a pretty svelte, thin profile. And it's coming to AT&T on Sunday for $199.99. So it's a new Android device to AT&T. Is this the one for you? Well, we'll find out in the full review. Special thanks to our friends at Best Buy. They're hooking us up with some cool phones just like this so you can win them in the One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy, you don't have to deal with rebates. So you walk out the door paying a non-rebate price. Enough of that, let's get into the review. See if this is the one. Is this the one? Is it up to snuff? So I want to show you how the personal information management stuff works on TouchWiz and on the Infuse 4G, because it is a little bit different if you're familiar with HTC and Sense UI or Motorola and Moto Blur. It differs, in stock Android even, it differs across the platforms despite the fact that they're all running Android. So here you can see we're in the Create Contact screen. You have your first name, your last name, your phone number, and of course you can add and delete as you see fit. So if we need 2 phone numbers, we need 3 phone numbers, we can add a second email. Go down to IM groups, ringtones, postal address, organization. You can click on more for things like birthday, anniversary, the website. So I could throw in the quick brown fox here. I can add a picture, of course, and I can go from the album, or I can take a photo. So just wanted to show you that. We can jump back out. And same thing with the calendar. Let's go take a look at that. Here's what the calendar looks like in TouchWiz, a different color scheme overall. And then I always like to touch on the Samsung Media Hub because it is a unique feature to Samsung devices. So you have the Media Hub here, and it's kind of a video and a TV rental slash place to buy if you'd like to. So we can go over here to the Dilemma, for example, and I can own it for $17.99. I can rent it for $4. Now you pay for the mobile functionality of this. That's a little high in my opinion to rent for $4. To own for 18 bucks, but if you're traveling, you're in the airport and all of a sudden you decide you want a movie, here's your opportunity, and it's nice to have it pre-installed on the device. On the flip side, carriers, manufacturers, and of course the OS itself has an app store. So you have Android Market, and then you have the Samsung Media Hub thing coming in, and then AT&T, wants to start, right now it's not as big as something like the VZ App Store or something like that, but AT&T at some point, I'm sure will want to start, or most likely will want to start an app store. So you have all these options to choose from, and I think that does nothing more than confuse customers. The Media Hub is a pretty good option though, and I think if it's left like this, it'll maintain its individuality. But if they go to apps or something like that, I think that'll be the challenge, trying to distinguish it from something like the Android Market or some of the others. So we can go to Movie Store here and see, excuse me, Knocked Up. For example, you can watch a preview, you can own it, you can rent it, and that's what you can do in there. Same thing with TV Store. Let's go in here. We'll go into the Office. Whoops. Let's go to, I actually can't play any of these for copyright reasons, but you get the idea, and you can do that in Media Hub, and it's excellent for when you're traveling. Now on that note of kind of app stores, let's take a look real quick at the Android Market, because there are some changes, and just to show you the difference on this massive display, tablet-like display. Okay, screen rotation is locked, so you can see it in portrait and in landscape mode, and you get a lot of screen real estate again as a result of the 4.5-inch display, but it's just kind of cleaned up, and if you've watched any of my videos recently, you know this. But the Android Market, as we learned at Google I/O, is getting ready to undergo another change at some point, which I think is going to put it more in line, at least it looks to me like it's going to put it more in line with the tablet side. So it'll look very familiar to what you've seen if you've worked with Honeycomb and any of the corresponding tablets. Let's take a look at AT&T. Excuse me. I'm going to the App Center. AT&T Radio. We'll do this one, for example. And you can see over here on the side, nice green, then you have your description. Let me turn it back up so you can see description. You can click more. Your sharing, your screenshots, your reviews, your related, developer info, and market content. So I can install here, and of course the permissions once I hit install will appear here. Same thing when I turn it into portrait, they'll appear. I'm not actually going to install that, but you get the idea. Just very clean, very easy to use, and of course with Android, because it is Android 2.2, and now that this is extended back to some of the older versions as well, but it is Android 2.2, so it does install your, or update your apps automatically rather. So I can go to My Apps, click on those, go to Flash Player 10.3, and click Allow Automatic Updating. And so it's much better than something like iOS, where you have to physically install every single update. You do have that option on Google. Very, very nice touch out of the Android market. So as I like to do from a lot of the reviews, I'm taking some questions from Twitter. I asked a second ago what you'd like to see about the Infuse 4G. First question is about the battery cover. It says, let me see, let me find it. How does the back cover feel, and how is the weight of the device? The weight feels great. It's pretty evenly distributed, and you know, it's one of those things I've been telling everybody since I got this device, and I've been kind of testing it on the personal side. It doesn't feel like a 4.5-inch display. It really feels more like 4.3 to me. I mean, it's big, don't get me wrong. It's not an iPhone tiny, you know, by any means, but it feels roughly the same to me, maybe, you know, a little bit bigger as the G2X. I mean, it is obviously a little bit larger, but it just feels very similar, like a Droid X maybe. So it's not, you know, Dell Streak big with the 5-inch display. It's easy to hold in the hand. I haven't dropped it or, you know, felt like it was too large or anything. I like the battery cover. Let me get it up close so you can see and wait for it to zoom in. It's kind of this texturized battery door that you can see. Makes the noise. And, you know, I've been pleased with the design. I didn't like it at first, but it actually grew on me a lot. How's the build quality? And Infuse versus Charge 4G dogfight would be cool. Infuse 4G versus Charge dogfight. Absolutely, that's on the agenda. Look out for the Infuse 4G and the Charge dogfight. And how's the build quality? You know, it's pretty good. It's a Samsung device. They're known for being plasticky. It's just as plasticky as the other Galaxy S devices. That said, you look at this texturized battery door, and it really makes a difference to me versus something like the Charge, which it just feels kind of straight plasticky. This kind of distinguishes it and takes your hand away from, you know, it feeling so plasticky, if that makes any sense, which it probably doesn't. But I feel that battery door, and I'm like, hey, it doesn't feel as plasticky as some of the other devices. So answer to that feels pretty good. How does the display quality compare to the Captivate? It's Super AMOLED Plus as opposed to Super AMOLED, which, you know, I know is marketing terms, but absolutely beautiful. You know, to me it looks much better outdoors in comparison to the Captivate, you know, and like I say this a million times, but really doesn't do it, the camera doesn't do it justice. I mean, the screen quality is just absolutely gorgeous. Get it down here so you can see. Very, very pretty, very easy to use, and it looks nice. So it's, you know, I happen to like it a lot. Super AMOLED Plus gets grade A in my book. And let's see if I can find something. Actually, I'll tell you what. Let me go into the gallery and see if I can find a picture for you while we're doing that. You can just see the backgrounds on these phones. Actually, let's do that. Let's go to wallpaper. That's so much easier. Wallpaper gallery, and you can just see. Let's go to, that's a pretty good one. So you can see the difference. At least in my opinion. I can see it on this side. I don't know if you can see it on the camera side, but it looks a little bit better than Super AMOLED and a lot better than some of the non-high-res displays. So let's see. Pit it against Droid Charge for size comparison. I did that earlier in the video, but it's probably going to be in part 1, so that's what they look like together. Let's go into Quadrant Standard while I'm answering some of these other ones because we're running out of time. And hey, we want to see how it performs. Run full benchmark. You know, call quality's been a mixed, call quality's, let me rephrase that. Call quality's been great. Signal strength has been kind of a mixed bag for me. You know, I have other AT&T devices, the iPhone, some Blackberries, and some other smartphones. I have the Inspire 4G with me. And, you know, to me, the signal strength has been a little bit less on this one. Now, it might just be my unit, it might be perception, but the signal strength has been a little bit less. And you can't really tell everything by bars. But, you know, when this one has 1 bar, my HTC device has 2 to 3. My Blackberry has 2 to 3. So, you know, just keep that in mind. This may be a little bit frustrating on the signal strength front, but then again, I haven't dropped any calls. So it's one of those things, you know, it's showing 1 bar, but hey, as long as it keeps the call and doesn't get choppy, that's all that matters to me. On that note, call quality's been very good. Haven't had any dropped calls. I got some choppy ones when I went through an AT&T dead spot, but, you know, it's a well-known dead spot, and I was able to keep the call. So everything's been good there. Speaker's been loud as well. So 1,124 on the Quadrant Standard. I've seen it range between 1,100 and 1,300. So that's, you know, in terms of expectations, keep it there. That said, Quadrant Standard really isn't the best test. In fact, none of them are. It's all about day-to-day use to me and what you use the device for. And I can tell you in day-to-day use, it's been relatively quick. I haven't had any slowdowns whatsoever. I've been using it for the past couple days. And it's been reasonably fast for a single core, for 1.2 gigahertz. Single core device. Let's go into the speed test. I took it off of Wi-Fi so we can see. I'll give you a hint. It's miserable. Charlotte appears to be one of those markets that's HSPA plus 21 megabits per second. You know, so it appears to support it. And when I go down further into the city, I do get some pretty decent speeds. But it hasn't been great in this area for whatever reason. So let's see. Server not set. Still locating. Put that down. Oops. Let's wait for it to locate. And I'll answer some more questions. Let's see. How do you insert a micro SD card? So the micro SD card is under the battery, if I remember right. Let me see. Yeah, it's actually underneath the SIM card, but you have to pull the battery out to access it. And it is, you know, to me it's not as hard as everybody was making it out to be to remove, but that said, you do have to pull the battery out, so it will require it to be turned off. Let me figure out why this is not finding the closest server. So for whatever reason, I can't get it to connect to speed test, but you can see those are some Wi-Fi speeds. But here are the speeds that I get when I'm out in the city, and then when I come back, or you know, I'm in the city, but when I'm out in the center part of the city, those are the speeds. And then here's what I get when I'm on the outskirts, which is where I'm at. You know, I get these miserable 0.031 megabits per second. So you get the idea. It totally depends on where you are. And even though it's an HSPA Plus device, AT&T really hasn't released the markets that have full HSPA Plus backhauls. So keep that in mind. Your speeds may be great, or they may not, depending on your individual market. But overall, really like this device. The Inspire 4, or the Infuse 4G, sorry, is a great device. Really like the size. I dig it, you know. But then again, I have big hands. This may not be the perfect device for mom, for daughter, for somebody that, you know, has smaller hands and wants something a little bit smaller like the iPhone, which you can grip around a little bit easier. So keep it in mind. I do think, you know, to me it's my favorite Android device on AT&T right now based on features. 1.2 gigahertz processor, 4.5-inch Super AMOLED Plus display, 8-megapixel camera. I think it's the best spec overall. Now I know a lot of you are saying, but the Atrix is the best spec. Yeah, it's got that dual-core processor, but I think overall, comparing everything, this device has a little bit more to offer both on the software front and on the hardware front. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com of the Infuse 4G, which I probably called the Inspire a couple times because it's kind of hard to keep those apart. But Infuse 4G on PhoneDog.com. We'll do dogfights and more. Be sure to like us on Facebook for the chance to win an iPad 2, which as soon as I get off here, I'm doing the broadcast. So you could win at Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Follow me on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron, with any questions, comments, thoughts, or just love in general that you want to give me on Twitter. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.